VTTA.
Hell yeah.
The basics. Chrome extension. In this session you will learn what is necessary to import a goblin into Foundry VTT. This enables you to determine is everything going correctly, or should I reconnect, or what is happening actually. So first of all, we got two websites. On the left you see Foundry VTT, on the right you see D&D Beyond, for example this goblin, and you want to import it. So in order to import it, we need to send data from the right to the left. The easiest way for communication is to create common ground. Common ground would be, in our case, that both websites are displayed using Google Chrome, in contrast to using and managing the Foundry server by the native application. So instead of starting the server by double-clicking the application executable and then logging in the appearing screen, you will now use Google Chrome to connect to your Foundry server, even if you run it locally on your own computer. You can see which IP address to use in the game settings at the very bottom, invitation links. It will display both the IP address necessary for users outside of your open network, connecting from the internet, and the IP address you can use to connect to your server when you're running it locally. Now we've established common ground, and basically both websites are now in the same room. That enables them to talk to each other. That's great. But we need some kind of glue, some messaging router or transporter or mediator. Let's call it a bridge. We need a bridge that enables messages to pass over the gap between two website boundaries. And that's the Chrome extension. Now let's talk to D&D Beyond first, because it's more easy. When you develop a Chrome extension, you specifically request permissions from the user. You accept these permissions by installing it, and sometimes Google Chrome asks you, do you accept these? Yes or no. One permission is, I want to access URLs looking a bit like that, or starting with this string, and I request permissions to all websites or a set of websites starting with dndbeyond.com. Now Google team reviews all the requested permissions, and it definitely will request changes if they think the permission set is too broad. For example, I could try to access all possible URLs. That would enable me to check up your bank account balance when you do online banking. So that shouldn't be done and requested at all. And the Google review team will not allow it either. In our case, it's rather easy. We know dndbeyond.com is a common URL of resources that we want to access, so I specify that URL. And once Google reviews the extension and approves it, it will get published to the web store. When you now install the Chrome extension and when you browse to a dndbeyond.com website, I do have access to its content. And having access means I can inject a small, tiny JavaScript snippet that will traverse the content, that will extract the content and deliver it for inspection to the Chrome extension. Now that part is working rather fine. Let's look at the left side, the Foundry side. Here we have an issue or problem, because I do not know which URL you're using to actually display your Foundry server. It could be localhost if you're running it locally on your own computer, or just an IP address if you do not have a name attached to it, or you can register a domain name on GoDaddy.com, for example, and use whatever string combination you'd like. So I'm having a hard time to find really a pattern of URLs that I want to access, because it's basically all URLs. And as I said before, that's a bad idea. So what do we do then? I inserted a small button in the extensions pop-up menu that appears when you click on the extensions icon in your Chrome hotbar on the top right. And this button will try to inject the script into the currently displayed page. So I requested the active tab permission. And when you click that button, the Chrome extension will try to inject the script as on the right hand side. And if I get a response, I know, hey, this is a Foundry tab. We are at the right place. And the button turns green. The script is injected and now the bridge is complete. I can send messages from the right over to the extension and then into the script inside your Foundry server. That's super great. So that's what we need. But once the data is inside Foundry, we need a specialized partner for the tiny little script. And that is VTTA DDB. It receives the data and will translate the incoming data into, like commands, what should I do with it? Is it a monster? Let's try to see if the monster is already available in the world and update it. If not, then create it. All these logic things and knowing how to talk to your Foundry server is part of VTTA DDB. So both components are equally important in this solution, the extension and VTTA DDB. Now the main focus, or the main point why I record this session, is the following. You need to understand what happens when you, for example, reload your Foundry tab. If you reload it, the scripts and everything basically is loaded from your Foundry server and started up again, fresh. That means that the tiny little script is suddenly missing, and the bridge collapses. The Chrome extension has no partner to talk to, the Foundry server connection is interrupted. VTTA DDB still runs, but it has no tiny little script to play with. I am detecting events that will lead to a disruption in communication. For example, if you reload your Foundry tab, a message will appear in the Chrome extension's pop-up menu, stating exactly this. It looks like you reloaded, please reconnect. Some events are not detectable by me. For example, when you go to the Foundry setup screen, a reload of the tab does not occur, but still when you start up your Foundry server again, the tiny little script is missing. So, all in all, if you see and experience issues with imports not happening, then just reconnect when in doubt. Reload your Foundry tab by pressing Ctrl-R and then reconnect using the button in the Chrome extension's pop-up menu. That's the gist of it. When in doubt, reconnect. If that's the only thing that you learn from this session, my goal is achieved. Thank you for your time, and have a great one. Goodbye.